Hello, welcome to Japan Lyric Room. In this program, we carefully taste the lyrics of Japanese songs, delivering the meanings contained in the phrases and the unique Japanese cultural backgrounds in an easy-to-understand way.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here today.
We have a truly special session lined up for everyone.
We really do. Usually when we look at songs from the late 70s or early 80s, we're sort of talking about classics, right?
We're oldies.
Exactly. But the song we're analyzing today feels incredibly current. It's a track that has absolutely exploded on social media recently.
Even though it was released over 40 years ago.
It's a genuine phenomenon. Today we are looking at Mayonaka no Door, which is widely known by its English subtitle, Stay With Me, by the late, great Miki Matsubara.
Yeah, if you've been on the internet at all in the last 3 or 4 years, specifically on TikTok or, Instagram Reels, you have definitely heard this song.
It's unavoidable.
It really is. It's just that catchy. It has this groovy city vibe track that just grabs you by the collar instantly.
It really does. And it was originally released in 1979, right at the dawn of what we now call city pop. But its resurgence in the 2020s was something no one in the music industry could have predicted.
Not at all.
It started largely with a specific trend where young Japanese Americans would play the song for their mothers on camera.
Oh, I love this video so much.
They're great, right?
Yeah, the moms are usually just cooking or doing something totally mundane, and then the beat drops, and they light up.
Exactly. It's like they're transported back to their 20s instantly. It's instant nostalgia.
And that viral trend actually pushed the song to #1 on Spotify's global viral chart for 18 consecutive days.
Which is wild for a song from 1979. It just proves that high-quality songwriting doesn't really have an expiration date.
It really doesn't. And before we get into the lyrics, we should probably set the scene a bit for you. What is the overall vibe here?
Well,
because when I hear it, I just want to dance. But when I look up the translation, I realize, oh, this isn't a happy song at all.
that is the absolute essence of city pop. The song depicts the vivid sadness of an urban night.
Right.
It features this very sophisticated sound, lots of jazz fusion elements, a killer bass line, but the lyrics are deeply emotional.
They focus a lot on separation and longing.
Exactly. It's that contrast between the bright, neon-lit soundscape and the lonely heart that makes it so compelling.
And Miki Matsubara herself, she has such a distinct voice. It's not that high-pitched, idle pop voice you sometimes hear in 80s Japan.
No, she had a very powerful jazz-influenced voice, and what's crazy is that Mayonaka no Door was her debut song.
Of debut, wow.
Yeah, she came out of the gate with an absolute masterpiece. Sadly, though, her story has a really tragic ending.
It does.
Miki Matsubara passed away in 2004 from cervical cancer. She was only 44 years old.
That is just heartbreaking. She was so young.
Yeah.
It adds a whole other layer of poignancy to the song when you hear it now, knowing that.
It really does. But in a way, her voice has become immortal. It continues to color the nights of sleepless cities all over the world.
People who weren't even born when she passed away are now singing her words.
Now, let's look at the team behind the song, because the lyrics are very specific. They don't feel generic at all.
So who wrote this?
The lyrics were written by Takuko Miura. She is a legend who is known for leaving what we call literary gaps in her writing.
Literary gaps. What does that mean exactly?
It means she doesn't explain every single detail. That allows you, the listener, to project your own life and your own heartbreak into the song.
I see. And what about the music?
The composition and arrangement were by Tetsuji Hayashi. If you know city pop, you definitely know his name.
Oh, for sure.
He was a master at fusing Western musical essence, that American West Coast funk and soul vibe with Japanese melodic sensibilities.
That fusion is really why it sounds both foreign and familiar at the exact same time.
Absolutely.
And the title itself, Mayonaka no Door, Midnight Door. I assume we aren't talking about literal carpentry here.
No, definitely not.
This isn't a song about home renovation.
Not quite. The midnight door symbolizes an emotional boundary. It's that threshold where a relationship collapses.
So it's the point of no return.
Right. Between two people who used to love each other, once you walk through that door, you can't come back.
Okay, I am ready to step up to that threshold. Let's carefully taste the lyrics.
Sounds good.
We've picked out 7 key phrases to help us really savor the world of this song. Let's start right at the beginning.
The song opens with a very specific visual detail. It grounds us immediately in reality.
Yeah, it's not some grand declaration of love, it's just an observation. And the English translation for that is, I recognize that gray jacket and the coffee stain on it.
I absolutely love this line. It's so cinematic.
It really is. But why focus on a stain?
This is just brilliant songwriting. The cultural nuance here is about the raw depiction of an accidental reunion. Or perhaps she's staring at his belongings that were left behind. But the focus on the coffee stain emphasizes reality. If she described a pristine, brand new jacket, he would feel like a stranger or a model in a magazine.
Right. A clean jacket is just clothing, but a stained jacket is a story.
Exactly. The stain represents their shared daily life. It represents the accumulation of time they spent together.
It shows she knows his habits, his clumsiness, his morning routine. It's deeply intimate.
And there's a specific Japanese insight here regarding the word for recognize. She says, "Myoboga aru." This doesn't just mean I know this. It implies a memory carved deep in the subconscious.
Like a recognition that comes from the gut.
Exactly. And the stain itself signifies that he is the same as ever, warts and all. It triggers an instant drag from past memory right into the present.
It highlights a mix of lingering affection and sadness. She loves him, even with his flaws.
It's such a human moment to start a song with.
So we have this very grounded, realistic image of the jacket.
Yeah.
But then the song immediately shifts gears.
It really does.
It goes from a coffee stain to this rush of overwhelming nostalgia.
It's almost like a camera zoom. The next line is,
Let me give the translation for that. That season is now right before my eyes.
so ano kisetsu ga ima minamae. Here we see a state of enchantment, or perhaps confusion. The past isn't just a faded recollection in her head.
It's surfacing so vividly that it feels like it is happening right now.
Right. I think everyone has had that experience. You smell a certain perfume, or hear a song, or see a specific quality of light in the afternoon.
And suddenly you are 5 years in the past.
That is exactly what the Japanese phrase "mei no mae" captures. It literally means right before one's eyes. It gives the memory a visual reality.
But notice the ambiguity too. She says, that season, ano kisetsu?
She doesn't say last summer or the winter of 1978.
That is the literary gap Tokukumura is famous for. By using the abstract keyword ano kisetsu, or that season, it allows the listener to insert their own peak memory.
So for one listener, that season is a college romance.
And for another, it's a summer fling.
Exactly. It allows you to project your own peak memory of love or the sharp pain of your own separation. It makes the song universal.
So we have the trigger, the jacket, we have the flashback, the season returning, and now we arrive at the explosion.
The part of the song that everyone, regardless of language, sings along to.
The hook.
Which translates to, "Stay with me, knocking on the midnight door."
Mayonaka no duo wa tataki. This is the most dramatic scene in the song.
The physical sound of knocking overlaps with the inner cry pleading with the departing lover.
Why is midnight so important here? Why not the morning door?
Well, Mayonaka, or midnight, is culturally and poetically significant. It is a time when loneliness deepens.
I see.
It's the time when human reason wavers and emotion takes over. You might be rational at 2 p.m., but at midnight, all bets are off.
That's very true. Nothing good happens when you're making decisions about your ex at midnight.
Exactly. And the action, tataki, which means knocking, shows pure desperation.
She is knocking regardless of how it looks to the neighbors or to him. She just wants to stop him from leaving.
It reveals a fear of rejection, but also a deep, terrifying love.
And there's an interesting linguistic mix here too, right? The English, stay with me.
Yes. The phrase "stay with me" sounds very sophisticated, very urban, very city pop.
Right.
But the emotion underneath it, the knocking on the door, is a heavy, wet, traditional Japanese emotion of "don't go, stay by my side."
It's a brilliant fusion of Western cool and Japanese sentiment.
That really is the secret sauce of this genre. It's catchy, but it hurts.
It hurts because it's real. Now, moving on, as the song continues, she tries to cope with this loss.
She isn't just knocking, she is trying to preserve something.
The next key phrase is,
Which means holding the moments of the two of us.
holding the moments. That's an interesting verb choice because you can't physically hold a moment.
No, you can't.
You could hold a hand or a jacket, but not time.
That is the beauty of it. The Japanese verb daku means to hug or embrace a person, but it is also used for cherishing a feeling or a memory deep in one's heart.
So she's hugging the memory.
Yes. She is holding on to the brilliant moments of the past as if they were tangible jewels or treasures.
She knows she can never return to them, but she refuses to let them go.
It gives the memory a sense of weight and temperature.
Exactly. She uses these past moments as fuel to survive the loneliness.
It portrays her dignified strength. She isn't just collapsing on the floor, she is actively protecting these memories to keep herself going.
But despite her holding on so tight, There is a harsh reality she has to face. The next phrase deals with the distance that has grown between them, and the translation is, your heart that drifted away.
This connects to another lyric in the song about the second winter. It expresses the definitive end.
She feels his heart drifting away, almost in sync with the changing seasons.
The tragedy here seems to be that he might still be physically there.
That is the cruelest part. The phrase hanarete iku means drifting away or separating. Here, it refers to psychological disconnection.
He might be standing right there at the midnight door, but his heart is gone.
Being next to someone who has already checked out emotionally, that is so much worse than them being in another city.
It is. The metaphor here is like the winter getting colder. His heart is leaving coldly but surely.
And she observes this with a cruel calmness. She isn't screaming at him here. She is realizing the truth.
The contrast between physical proximity and emotional distance is just heartbreaking.
Even though she realizes his heart has drifted, her reaction isn't anger. It isn't revenge.
No, it's something much more tender, which I think surprises some people.
It is a surprising reaction. She sings, Mada wa zarezo atameteta.
Meaning, I hadn't forgotten yet, I was warming it.
Warming it. This is such a powerful image.
Even though the love ended, she protected the lamp of their shared memories within her freezing heart to ensure the light never went out.
Can you explain the nuance of warming here? Atatameru.
The verb atatameru implies actively applying heat or care. This word's selection condenses her selfless love.
Remember the context. It's the second winter. The world outside is freezing.
But she used her own heart's heat to keep the memory from freezing over.
Some people might hear that and say, girl, let it go. Move on.
You could see it as attachment, sure, but for her, it is a pure form of devotion.
Forgetting would have been easier.
Much easier. It would have been less painful to just let the memory go cold. But she chose to keep the painful warmth.
It really shows the depth of her character. She values the love she felt more than her own comfort.
That is beautiful, but also incredibly sad.
And that leads us to the final state of her emotions. After all the knocking, the holding, the warming, what is left?
The final phrase we need to look at is the ultimate result of all this. She sings,
A hole opened in my heart.
Kokoro ni ana ga ita. This is the ultimate metaphor for overwhelming loss.
It feels as if a vital part of her has been gouged out after losing the person who was her center.
It's visceral, a hole.
Yes. Kokoro ni ana ga ahu is a strong Japanese expression. It signifies deep despair or a state of lethargy where nothing matters anymore.
It implies that absolutely nothing can fill this void.
I can just picture the cold city wind blow you right through that hole.
That is the imagery, exactly. It condenses the indescribable loneliness of being left alone in the bright city lights.
The sound of the song is sophisticated, the beat is catchy, you're tapping your foot, but the internal state is this empty, cold void.
It's amazing how we went from a small coffee stain on a jacket, something so solid and small, to a gaping hole in the heart, something so empty and vast.
That is the journey of the song. It starts with the mundane details of daily life and zooms out to a profound existential loss.
And yet, and this is what I keep coming back to, it doesn't feel depressing to listen to. It feels beautiful. Why do you think that is?
I think that is the magic of Tetsuji Hayashi's melody and arrangement. He turned this pain into a city pop aesthetic.
It isn't just damp, heavy sadness. It is a sophisticated, beautiful loneliness.
It's the kind of sadness you can dance to. It's the kind of sadness you want to drive to the city at night to, watching the lights blur.
It allows you to be sad, but stylishly sad.
Exactly. And that resonates with people. To think, Miki Matsubara's voice is still crying out, "Stay with me," more than 40 years later.
It feels like she is still knocking on that midnight door.
And millions of listeners around the world are opening that door and letting her in.
It connects us all through that shared feeling of longing.
Well, I think I'm going to go listen to the track again. I feel like I'm going to hear that bass line and those lyrics in a completely different way now. This has been such a wonderful session.
It really has. Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening again today.
We pick up various Japanese songs and update detailed explanations on our website as well.
If you want to taste the lyrics more deeply, please check the website from the link in the description.
And if you like this program, please subscribe or follow the channel.
If you have any impressions or requests for songs you'd like us to cover, please let us know in the comments.
See you next time.
This was Japan Lyric Room.